Hey guys, what's going on? So Steve and I have a 2012 Chevy Impala in the shop here. It has 3.6 in it, and we're getting ready to do an oil change on it, and we'll show you what's involved with doing it.
All right, so we're going to do an oil change on a Chevy Impala 2012 with a 3.6 V6. It's a 15 millimeter, and we're going to drain the oil from the crankcase down here, and we'll get the oil filter from upstairs. Let's crack that loose. Trying to not make a mess today. Let's see how that works. So we'll get all the oil drained out of the crankcase, and whenever you're doing an oil change on your car, whether it's 3,000, 5,000, 7,500, if you're using synthetic, you're gonna wanna check your tire pressures and give the car a good look over. You know, you wanna look at the exhaust and check the front end on it. And you know, you may do 7,500 on the highway real quick. You may do 5,000 in a year or so. So you wanna give everything a good check. We normally check all of our lights at the same time, tire pressures, check the front end, and give it a good look over.
Hey Steve, how long does the guy got to stand there with the oil pan for?
I don't want to make a mess, all right? So if I put it down, it's going to make a mess.
So if you're in the driveway on ramps, obviously, you can put the pan on the ground.
And it's probably 4 1/2 to 5. We'll let you know what it takes to fill this thing up. And we'll go from there. And the filter looks like it's going to be from up top. Yeah, I can see it up top over here. So, all right, so we're going to inspect our O-ring to make sure the rubber here is good. You know, clean it off, make sure it's good. It's good. We're going to put it in. It's a 15 millimeter. I'll thread this thing back in here. It's kind of tight with the exhaust, and it gets a little oil on the exhaust. So we're going to wipe that down, everything clean with the rag to make sure it doesn't smoke a little. Tighten this up good. And just gotta make it snug. It's aluminum pan, don't kill it. Let's wipe everything down. And like I said, we're gonna do an inspection underneath the car. We're gonna check the front end, make sure everything's tight. You know, there's no play there, no play up there. No play there, everything's tight there. We're gonna wanna look at the exhaust system on it. You know, make sure that's good. It's got a little flex pipe here. That still seems to be okay. Give the exhaust a bang, no rattles. Sometimes these heat shields can let loose and start rattling on you. Everything's tight with it. So we're just looking for anything loose or anything going on. Everything looks pretty good on it. And we're gonna drop it down, and we've already checked our tire pressures. And we're going to drop it down and get the oil filter off of it, and we'll slide the bucket up in front here. You can see the filter, it's in this area right above. So we're going to put the pan a little over here. You know, chances of us catching all the oil in it are probably slim to none, but that's the goal. So, all right, let's put it down. So we unscrewed the cap, it's a little tight coming off. Tony comes over, looks down here, you can see the oil filter there. And we'll get our wrench. Our typical oil filter wrench. Slide on there. Now we can actually see the bucket, and it looks like it's right underneath it, so we'll see. Enter it. Oh. Sounds like it's going in the bucket. I'll unthread this. Pull this up. We're gonna filter off. We're gonna match it up with the new filter. And it looks like the parts store sold us a shorter filter, which, you know, is okay. But what you want to make sure is that the threads are the same and the gasket is the same. So you can stick this one on top of the old one. The gasket lines up. And we got a wicks in here. We're going to thread this on now. And we got oil on our gasket. And you just want to get this thing hand tight and maybe give it a little whisker. You want to make sure that your O-ring, your seal came off of the old housing, which it did. Okay, so that's all good there. So let's get the filter on. So you can tighten it by hand and then put the wrench on it and just give it a little bit of whisk. The longer filter kind of gives you a little more, you know, grip on it, but this one's all right. So slide that on there and give it a little bit of a turn. Okay, that's good. Let's get the funnel in here and, you know, wipe the filter out. Looks nice and neat. And then we're going to put the oil back into the engine over here. We got 5 quarts, and I think it's going to take 4.5. We got our funnel. Make sure it's clean. Pull this up. We got our 530 Mobil 1 high mileage oil, full synthetic. What we want with. Fill it slow, not too fast. Okay, let's check the level. All right, right in the check mark here. And I'll tell you, man, we're gonna start this thing up and this thing might almost want another half a quart. All right, so we're just making sure there's no leak. Everything's nice and dry on it. So if you have a transmission dipstick, which this one doesn't have a cap on it for it. So shut it off. We're gonna check all our fluid levels. And so here's our power steering fluid level here. Look, and that thing's full. That's good. And then you check on your hoses to make sure that they're not soft. These feel good. And you can look down at the serpentine belt on this. There's no cracks on it. It's got tension on it. When you pull on it, you can see the tension moving. That's good. And you're just doing this on your inspection because you're doing your oil change. You want to make sure this is all good. Let's check the oil level now. We have 5 in it, and let's see what we got. And man, it's below the check mark. This thing's gonna take another quart of oil. So we're gonna end up with 6 quarts for this V6. And all right, so let's find a quart and get it in it. All right, so we're gonna putting our 6 quart in it. Okay. Check the level now. All right, we're right in the check mark. You can see it right in the middle of the check mark. And that's where I want to be. Okay, so you know your O-rings on this thing right here. Just take your fingers, you're wiping the oil off. Put a little on these O-rings. These things can tend to dry up, and sometimes these dipsticks are real hard to pull out of the holder here. So just putting a little oil on to do it. And remember, you can check your air filter, check all your fluid levels at this point, and make sure everything's good for the winter. We're going to check our antifreeze, make sure that the strength is good for the winter on this thing. And we just recently put a water pump on this vehicle, so I know it's good, but we're gonna check it to make sure. And that'll finish this thing up.